When you fall to your knees, you're not falling into despair. You're falling into His arms. There comes a moment in every soul's journey when strength runs out. When we kneel in silence, not from reverence, but from exhaustion. Life can press heavy on our shoulders. Sickness, fear, failure. And in those moments, we feel utterly weak. But this is where divine power begins. Because the God who sees your tears is the same God who whispers, "My grace is sufficient for you." You were never meant to carry this alone. In your weakness, God doesn't walk away. He steps in, and when you feel too broken to rise, His power lifts you gently, not with force, but with grace. Not to fix you instantly, but to walk with you through the valley. Think of the cracks in dry ground, useless, barren. But when light enters those cracks, life begins again. Your brokenness is not your end. It's where God's power shines brightest. The world may mock weakness, but heaven calls it sacred. Because in our lowest moment, we become most open to grace, and grace never comes empty-handed. Maybe today, you feel like giving up. You've tried and failed and tried again. But listen, your strength was never the source of your hope. God's grace is. And His grace is sufficient for you. It always has been, and always will be. When you fall to your knees, you're not falling into despair. You're falling into His arms. The cracks in your heart can glow with the power of heaven. Jesus doesn't need your strength to work. He needs your surrender. That's the secret the world never tells you. Strength begins in surrender. And from there, He makes all things new. Think about the times in your life when you have felt most powerless. Perhaps it was a loss, a failure, a broken relationship, or a season of uncertainty. In those moments, did you find yourself reaching out for help, longing for something or someone beyond yourself? That longing is not a flaw. It is a doorway. It is the soul's way of opening itself to grace. God's grace is not a distant concept. It is the steady hand that lifts you when you cannot rise on your own. It is the gentle whisper that reminds you that you are not alone. It is the unwavering promise that, even in your darkest hour, you are fiercely loved. There is a paradox here. The world values strength, but God values surrender. The world celebrates self-reliance, but God celebrates dependence on Him. The world says, "Don't let them see you fall." God says, "Let me catch you." When you fall to your knees, you are not falling into despair. You are falling into His arms. Arms that hold, comfort, and carry you. Arms that never grow weary. Arms that have carried generations before you and will carry you through whatever lies ahead. Even more, when you surrender your weakness, you become a living testimony to the power of God. Others see not just your struggles, but the way His strength sustains you. Your story becomes a beacon of hope, a reminder that none of us are alone in our battles, and that grace is always enough. So the next time life brings you to your knees, remember, this is not the end. This is the beginning of a new kind of strength, one that does not come from within, but from above. Allow yourself to let go of the need to be invincible. Instead, embrace the truth that your weakness is the soil in which God's power grows. Let His grace wash over you. Let His love lift you up. Let His power be made perfect right there in your place of need. God's grace is not just sufficient. It is abundant. It is overflowing. It is more than enough for every fear, every doubt, every moment of weakness. When you cannot see the way forward, trust that He is already there, ready to guide your steps. When you cannot carry the load, trust that He will bear it with you. This is the heart of the promise. You are never alone, never abandoned, never beyond the reach of His grace. His power is not made perfect in your strength, but in your surrender. His love is not dependent on your performance, but on His unchanging character. So take heart. Lift your eyes, even from your knees, and know that the God who created the universe bends low to meet you where you are. He sees your tears. He hears your prayers. He knows your struggles, and He delights in showing Himself strong on your behalf. Falling to your knees is not a sign of defeat. It is a sacred moment of trust, a holy act of faith. It is the place where you exchange your burdens for His peace, your weakness for His strength, your fears for His hope. Let his words echo in your heart. My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Hold on to that promise. Let it anchor your soul and steady your steps. And when you rise again, because you will, rise not in your own power, but in the strength of the one who holds you, now and always.